My first item in this repair challenge was a 1978 Speak and Spell. Let's take a look at my second item. Put a comment in the comment section if you can tell already what you know if you know what this is. I've actually never seen one of these in person before. But we have a vintage Big Bird talking alarm clock. This is a thing of beauty. So I can already see one problem, and then it's missing the battery cover. I don't think it said that on the item description in the auction, but I'll have to take a look and see for sure. This was made in the 70s, and all I know is that it's not working. So it says the clock is not working, and since the clock is not working, they cannot test it. Battery compartment is clean. I don't see where it says it's missing the battery cover. Let's see if it shows in the photos. So it does not show anywhere in the photos that it's missing the battery cover, so I'll be contacting the seller to get some of my money back, because I did not expect that. So I know I need a new battery door for it. Let's put a battery in and see if it does anything at all. It probably won't, as I do hear some shaking around going on in there, so hopefully nothing's broken too bad, but I do want to see what it does with the battery in it. So let's check that now. We just have no movement at all on the clock. I think it's time for me to do what I do best and take it apart. Now, I've never taken anything like this apart before. I think I may be able to get away with just taking those two screws off, the screw down there, and this might just pull off, although it looks like it can come off with this round cutout here. Also, it looks like I might be missing something right there. Not sure about that, but let's take these two screws off first. Okay, this is good. So far this just pulls out. What we have down in there, we've got a loose screw. It looks like another piece. Hey, there we go. Well, it is moving now, that's interesting. Give it a little tap. Okay, so the question is, what's going on with these pieces and the loose screw? This makes me wonder if either somebody's been in it, or what might have happened is this took a fall and it dropped somewhere. Not sure. The thing is I don't see anywhere inside here where there's a missing screw. So after taking it apart, just the back off of it and removing some extra pieces that had broken off from inside, it does currently work, at least this part. I will need to put the battery in and see if the talking part works, but that part works for now. So I'm not sure if the alarm's just not set correctly or something, but what I'm gonna do is take this bottom part off, and then I'll manually connect the speaker to the battery, and then we'll see if we can get Big Bird to talk. Can always tell when we're getting serious, we're bringing in the big guns. So I've got a meter here to check the connections, and then I also have some jumper wires with alligator clips, so we can just test directly on this motor and see if the motor's working, and that'll tell us if any of the wiring is faulty. So first things first, let's check the voltage on the battery. 1.49, almost 1.5. It's a little low, but should be enough. So we've got voltage here. Let's go ahead and bypass the switch and bypass whatever switch is in here and connect voltage directly to the motor, and let's see what happens. And and we'll just touch it. We got nothing. All right, well, let's take the motor apart. Now with these 2 screws removed, we can remove this part. And the good news is it looks like all of this is intact. It looks like we need to remove this screw next and take this bottom cover off now. Another one, I have no idea what it's gonna do. Hopefully there's not a bunch of gears in here we're gonna mess up, but won't know until we try. Okay, so we have some sort of band around here. So right offhand, it looks like the motor must spin this band. Does the band go right on the motor itself? It looks like it must. And then that spins this, which then spins something over here. So we don't really need to worry about how this all works yet, but we do need to figure out why this motor isn't working. I have the leads connected directly to the motor. Let's see if it spins. And just nothing at all on the motor. Let's flip the battery around. The motor's definitely not spinning. It seems to spin pretty free by hand, but just nothing when I hook it to the battery. It is possible this isn't the right type of battery. A UM-1 I think is interchangeable with a C-cell battery, but at the same time this could not, maybe this doesn't have quite the capacity this motor needs. I'm not really sure. I think at this point I need to take the motor out and maybe test it with an external power source. And here we go. Good news is we do have a motor number here, RE14. So we should be able to find a replacement fairly easily. Now with the motor all the way out, let's hook it up and see what it does. Yep, just no power on the motor at all. So one thing we can do with this is take the back of this motor out and just see what it looks like on the inside. Okay, there's that part. Those are pretty black. Could be just a connection issue. Those got a lot of grease along here. While we're here, let's just clean this off and then put it back on and see if it does anything for us. I don't know how well this shows in video, but there's definitely very deep grooves in here. And I'm guessing this has just caused a faulty connection right here. So I'm going to try and clean those grooves and maybe see if there's a way to get those metal pieces right here riding on a different area here. Yeah, that's just so grooved right there. This alarm clock's had a lot of use. But it's fun taking this old stuff, seeing if we can bring it back to life. Unfortunately, not a lot of people do this anymore, so there's just a lot of trash out there that probably could be fixed if someone just cared a little bit and wanted to try and experiment and maybe learn something in the process. What do you guys think? It's definitely better. Okay, let's test it. Oh, I'm gonna have to bend one of these tabs down. Just want to bend them down enough to keep it there. That side. Hey, there we go. Look at this. Okay, we definitely have a problem with the bearing on the fan, on the motor. Let's get this motor back apart. See if we can figure out what we need to do to keep it from making that horrendous noise. And then we'll put it back together. I'm just going to use a tiny bit of oil right here. Put it down on that shaft. So I did put a little bit of lube around the main shaft over there, right here. And now we do have to seem to have a fully working motor. As you can see, the motor sounds much better, turns normally. I think we might have this motor fixed. Now I have it mounted back in the clock itself, at least partially. Let's see if it still works. Okay, now we do have it working. Okay, so I think I have this somewhat figured out. I think this rubber piece right here, this belt, goes around this, so the motor will spin this piece right here. And this piece right here is going to hit against this, which will then make this needle move back and forth like that, somewhat. That needle will be rubbing against this, and you can see there's grooves there. So somehow that needle moving against this is what actually makes the noise, and then the noise is amplified through this speaker looking thing. So this isn't actually like a normal speaker. It's kind of like a makeshift speaker, at least that's what it kind of seems like to me. So it'll be interesting to see if we can get this one working. Let's give it a try. And after looking at it a little bit more, I do see one groove right here that should bring that needle out to this. So this actually, I'm guessing this is actually working like a record player. This is sort of a record that is gonna play whatever Big Bird says on this is gonna be all embedded right in this outer, these plastic grooves right here, just like how a record would play. Let's see if we can get it together, and let's see if I'm right. Okay, let's give it a try.
Wake up! It's me, Big Bird, and it's time to get up. Open your little eyes now. Don't roll over and go back to sleep. Come on now. One foot out of bed. Now the other one. Okay, have a nice day. And don't forget to wind the clock.
Wow, so this totally works. They're definitely, it seems to be playing a little bit slower than it should. I don't know why it's doing that. Might need to do some more work on that motor, but the amazing thing is we actually have it working. We can understand how it works. It's got a little record player in there. This is actually a fascinating fix so far. So we gotta make sure that the motor is going to be playing at the right speed so his voice sounds normally, and then we need to make sure that the actual clock works when we put it inside the alarm clock. So I did some more cleaning on the motor. I got that motor nice and cleaned up and the wires nice and clean, and then I lubricated a little bit. Now I'll show you what we got.
Wake up! It's me, Big Bird, and it's time to get up. Open your little eyes now. Don't roll over and go back to sleep. Come on now. One foot out of bed. Now the other one. Okay, have a nice day, and don't forget to wind the clock.
So there we have it. We have a working Big Bird alarm clock. So I think before the motor was just not quite clean enough, and those grooves that I showed you guys were not quite clean enough as well. So I think we have the motor itself working and the speaker working and the little record in there working. I think that's all ready to go. Now we got to make sure the actual clock is working, and then we can clean it up and put it back together and see what we can get for it. Now I do have to say, I'm gonna make a bold prediction here and say this is one of the coolest items I've probably found for this challenge. We'll see when we see what the other items are, but a Big Bird alarm clock that has a record player built in is just super cool to me, so I hope you guys are really enjoying this one.
Don't forget to wind the clock. Wake up! It's me, Big Bird, and it's time.
Okay, so it looks like we have some sort of problem in the clock itself. As soon as we turn the switch to the auto function, it just turns the whole thing on and just goes over and over and over. All right, so let's get the clock taken apart. Now for me, this is a much more scary part of doing this, as the clock part is the part that I am the least familiar with. So it looks like we have a little switch right here that I'm assuming closes when that alarm's supposed to be going off. However, it seems like that switch is already closed. And now that I'm looking at it, I see where that other screw came from. So this right here is the main problem. This piece right here is supposed to be screwed down, and that's what relieves tension on this little piece right here. When this is down, then that piece comes up. So this is the main problem that's causing that switch to not work correctly. So right down here is the problem, and this part is cracked as well. So we got to figure out if there's a way to fix that. There's a screw that goes down in there. Maybe we can just get a longer screw and try and get it down in there further. So I think our only hope here is to find a longer screw, this exact same screw but longer. Luckily there's a hardware store across the street, so I'll see you in a few minutes. All right, now I was able to find a screw that works for that, so that we're gonna call good. This whole carriage, this whole clock assembly is in here nice and tight, and most importantly, this switch now works correctly. I know you guys probably can't see that very well, but when I push down, normally it's not closed. When I push down on it, it does close. So that all seems to be working correctly. Now we have to see if we can get the hands on and the rest of the clock put together, and then see if the thing actually works after that. Now in order to test this and make sure that switch seems to be working correctly, I'm gonna put a battery back in and then see if it turns on, because before this, whenever I put a battery in, it just started working. Okay, this is good. Seems like that part is normal. Let's see if we can turn this around until it goes off. Okay. That seems to work, but it didn't actually work when that went off. Listen for the switch. Okay, right there, this should be playing. Oh, I bet it's because I have it turned off. I do.
Wake up! It's me, Big Bird, and it's time to get up.
So as far as I can tell, the clock is working normally. When the alarm goes off, I think you have to turn it off, and then you would wind the clock, and then before you go to bed, you would reset the alarm for whatever time you wanted to get up in the morning. I think that's how this is supposed to work. I've never had one, I've never seen one, I've never done anything with these, so I don't know for sure, but that's kind of what makes sense to me, so I'm gonna go with that theory. Now I gotta see if I can get the hands back on the clock and if they actually work normally. So I'm gonna be using two products today. I'm gonna try a fine scratch remover and then a plastic clean and shine. This is by Novus. Never used this before, but I'm gonna give it a try. Let's try it on a part of this because we know it doesn't damage anything, so that was the main thing I wanted to check there. Okay, can we see any difference? Actually, that actually does look, actually looks quite a bit better there. Okay, I don't know if you can see that on camera. It's kind of hard to get a good view of it. I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of it. That actually looks pretty good. Okay, that is definitely not perfect, but I'm actually pretty impressed. All the smaller scratches, it looks like, are mostly gone. I mean, there's gonna be some there still, but most of the smaller ones look a lot better. So this is actually, from what I can tell, pretty decent stuff. I'm gonna do the fine scratch remover on the inside, and then we'll go with the Clean and Shine, the other product. The Novus also has a number 3 that's for heavy scratches, but I don't want to do that on this. It just worries me that I might eat away too much of it, or it might not work correctly. I don't know. I just want to do this, and then we'll go with the number 1, which is like a Clean and Shine sort of thing. Okay, and there we go. We got the Clean and Shine on it. I feel like it's about the same as before as far as how it looks before this Clean and Shine. But overall, I love the look of it. It seems much cleaner. Got a few more little parts I'm gonna try and get off, like these colored parts right here. And then we're gonna put it back on and see how it looks. So far, our clock is looking great. We do have the front cleaned, and it looks like it's keeping time okay, but we can adjust that. Now what we need to do is put the top back on, put this back plate back on, and then give the whole thing a good cleaning, and then we can test it once more just to make sure it's still working. Oh no, we have a piece of dust. Okay, no dust this time. There we go. Now we have our clock all back together, and now I got to get it all nice and clean, looking shiny, so then we can test it and then hopefully get it sold. So we have the battery here. Let's turn the clock on.
Open your little eyes now. Don't roll over and go back to sleep. Come on now. One foot out of bed. Now the other one. Okay, have a nice day. And don't forget to wind the clock.
It sounds like our Big Bird alarm clock is now fully working. Let me know in the comment section how much you think this Big Bird alarm clock is worth, and we'll see what we can get for it. Now, one other thing to note, I did contact the seller and they are refunding part of my money for the not having the battery door there. Unfortunately, it's not gonna be a ton of money, and it's still gonna be a very big problem trying to sell this not having the battery door, but just the fact that it's working is gonna be huge, so I think I'll still be able to make a little bit of money on it. Tell me what you guys think of this fix. Was it a good one? Did you enjoy it? This was one of my personal favorite fixes in Vince and I's repair challenges so far. I'll leave a link for Vince's video in the description below so you can check out his video and see if he was able to fix his next item. Thanks so much for watching, and tune in next Friday for the next video in this series.